Here's a question for you. Do you know what the fastest growing sport in America is?
This is the new soundtrack of suburbia. And
You may want to consider a game called Pickleball. It's now the fastest growing sport in America.
Pickleball popularity has exploded with an estimated more than 4.8 million players nationwide.
So you've made six figures within less than a year of playing pickleball.
Yeah.
What's poppin'? It's your boy Brandon, aka Mr. Miyagi, your professional pickleball registered coach, here to teach you how to play pickleball in 10 minutes. If you haven't yet, see if you can hit that subscribe button right there so you can stay up to date on all my pickleball journeys. Let's get into it. We will be breaking down pickleball in three main topics. 1, the court. 2, the rules. And 3, the types of play. So you can fit 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. The size of the court is 44 feet long by 20 feet wide. At the end on each pole, the height of the net is 36 inches versus in the middle, it's 34 inches. Pickleball is usually played on concrete, asphalt, or indoor basketball courts. The rectangle that is closest to the net is called the non-volley zone, or kitchen for slang terms, as I will teach you throughout this video. You could be at the baseline hitting a volley, or you could be all the way to the front, just not in the non-volley zone. Hence, no volleys in the volley zones. If you need to, you can step in and hit a ball that bounces in the non-volley zone and then step right back out, because if you hang out in the non-volley zone and someone hits a ball at you while you hit it out of the air, aka hit a volley, you're in violation of the non-volley zone. So let's use an example for the non-volley zone. Let's say you're playing an intense match, it's going the distance, and you finally got game point on your paddle, and you run a little shake and bake play with your partner. You hit it, you hit the winner, but you're bouncing, and you fall in the kitchen even though the point is over. The ball can bounce 3 times. Everyone could be doing anything else, but if you're balancing yourself and you fall into that kitchen, it is your opposing team's point. Even if the ball is over, even if the point is done, you cannot land in the kitchen whatsoever. What I would recommend is to let your partner know that he should have grabbed you out so you don't fall into that kitchen. The ways around it is you can hit a Ernie or a Bernie, which means you jump across the non-volley zone and never set foot in it while hitting a volley out of the air. That is completely legal. Another cool trick shot about the game is called a ATP, around the pole, which actually means you can hit a ball that is outside of the court around the pole into the court, and it still counts as legal as long as it doesn't bounce on the floor first before making it inside your opposing team side. Part 2 is the rules of the game, and we're starting with serving because that is how the game starts. Because whenever you start in pickleball in doubles, you're only allowed to serve once per team. After that, every team has 2 opportunities to serve. Whoever is on the right-hand side begins to serve. You have to serve it diagonally across into the other box, and you have to pass the non-volley zone line, otherwise it is a fault. You can hit a let, where the ball hits the top part of the net, clears the non-volley zone line, and that is legal on a recreational level. On the PPA level, they redo lets. So if you hit the ball, hits the net, drops past the kitchen, they redo it. But for most recreational play, they will hit the net, pass the non-volley zone line, and you will play through it. If you serve and win a point, you and your partner switch places. You can only score when you're serving, and you continue to serve until you lose. If you're the first serving team and you miss a point, then it's called a side out, and your opposing team now has 2 opportunities to serve. This just prevents the first serving team from getting on a hot hand and just serving out the whole game. Let's talk about a legal serve. When you serve, you have to have 1 foot behind the baseline. You have to have a low to high motion. Your wrist has to be below your paddle, has to be below your belly button when you swing. You can either drop the ball out of the hand and hit it out of the air, or you can hold the ball up really high, let it bounce off the ground, and then hit it as a ground stroke. You cannot throw the ball on the ground to make it bounce higher than your belly button, or you cannot hold it underhand toss it up high, and then hit it out the air. Those are the legal ways you have to serve, and you have to stay within your box. You cannot stand over in the middle or over off the court. After that first initial team is done, each team has 2 opportunities to serve, and again, you keep serving until you lose, and typically you can only win points when you are serving. Other unique rule about pickleball is the third shot drop. So a third shot drop rule is basically the serving team, they serve it, they have to stay back until that ball comes back to them and bounces before they can approach the net. Because in pickleball, whichever team usually makes it to the net wins more of the points because you have more of a chance to put the ball down, angle it away, as opposed to hit baseline shots trying to pass your opponents. So the third shot ball rule prevents basically tennis players from coming in and serving and volleying. This game is more about returning and volleying. When you're a returner, say you're on the right-hand side and you're returning it to that right-hand side, your partner can be close to the net because they don't have to wait for that third ball bounce rule. As soon as your opponent returns it, ideally they want to follow it in and meet your partner at that net. That is considered 1 bounce. They hit it, 2 bounces. Now the ball's on your side, it hit the ground. Now you're able to hit it and move your way up to the net. So if you're serving, wait for that ball to come to you before approaching that net. If you're returning, try to get in the habit of returning and come up to the net to put pressure on your opponents. After a point is started, you ideally have 5 different ways you can win a rally. 1, your opponent hits the ball out. 2, your opponent hits the ball into the net. 3, your opponent lets the ball bounce twice. 4, your opponent steps into the non-volley zone line while volleying. 5, one of my favorite ways to win points is to tag your opponent cleanly in the body, aka called a body bag. And those are the 5 ways you can score in pickleball. The rules vary depending on what type of style you play, which brings us to part 3, different types of play. In men's doubles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles, you have 2 opportunities to serve per team unless you are that first team serving like we stated at the beginning. Then you only have 1 opportunity to serve. The way the scoring works, which is probably one of the hardest things to understand and pick up, is that there are 3 numbers. The first number that you're always going to call out is your own score. The second number is going to be your opponent's score. And the third number is either always going to be a 1 or a 2. And that third number is going to indicate whether it's the first server on the team or the second server on the team. So at the beginning of each doubles game, the score will always be called out 0-0-2 because that team only has that 1 opportunity to serve. And if they're already on 2 and they lose it, then it's a side out. And now your opposing team has a chance to serve and they will call out the score 0-0-1 because now this is their first opportunity to serve. If they win it, they move over, as in the serving team switches sides, opposing team stays, and now the score will be called out 1-0-1. If they win that point, switch 2-0-1. If they lose that point, can you guess what the score is going to be called out? You got it. 2-0-2. If they win that, 3-0-2. And it continues until that serving team loses that second opportunity to serve. That is doubles. Another style of play is singles. And for singles, there is no third number. You can only typically score when you are serving and you still call out those first 2 numbers as your score, then your opponent's score. You would start off on the right-hand side, serving to the right-hand side. And after every point, you just have to know what your number is because you would start on odds and evens on that side. So let's just say you're playing singles, you won the first point, it's 1-0, you switched over to the left-hand side, serve it out, missed that point, now it's your opponent's chance to start, but he would start on the right-hand side because his number is 0, and he would call out the score 0-1. If he loses that point, you don't start on the right-hand side, you start back to where you left off on that 1 side. So basically in singles, odds, evens. If your number is odds, you'll start off on the left. If your number is even, just start off on the right. There are certain times where there are rally score tournaments where every single point counts, and so you just keep alternating left and right. Let's just say you win a point off your opponent's serve, that would actually count towards you. Those games are typically played to 21 and are a little bit longer. With that being said, you should be confident now to walk into any court and play a full game of pickleball. You understand the court, you understand the scores, and you understand the different types of play. If you have any questions or comments, please put it right down here below, and I'd love to help you out with your pickleball career.